guys, Comic Boom here to review Absolute Edition of Doomsday Clock, man. I wanted to get this out. I just picked this up the other day. I wasn't going to pick this up. I thought it was a little bit too expensive. It was too expensive Canadian, but my retailer gave me a deal on it. He over-ordered 9 copies of this, and they wouldn't refund him, and so he put these on quite a discount, so I got a heck of a deal for this thing. And because the Canadian price is ridiculous, but when I got it below the American price, I had no choice but to pick it up. So I love Doomsday Clock, and for those who don't know, Doomsday Clock is sort of a well, it is kind of a sequel to Watchmen, although if you're a diehard Watchmen purist, you're probably somebody that's likely going to ignore Doomsday Clock, but you shouldn't. It's written by Jeff Johns, fantastic art by Gary Frank, and colors by Brad Anderson. This puppy is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to touch upon, I just want to go through the Absolute Edition and just say some of the highlights of it. I'm just going to touch upon the story a bit because those of you who are watching this, you're probably already fans of Doomsday Clock. Chances are with Jeff Johns becoming more at the forefront of DC, very likely anyway, in 2022 moving forward into 2023, Doomsday Clock is something that's going to be really, I think, coming to the forefront. It ends with the idea of a metaverse with Superman being the North Star of the DC universe. And it's something that it's so much more smoother, so much more well-written and coherent than Snyder's death metal and the nonsense of whatever Dark Crisis is trying to be, although that's not amounting to much. But Doomsday Clock, it keeps things nice and simple. We got a multiverse and we got Superman as the North Star. That's all we really need for the DC universe. Keep it simple, stupid, right? But anyways, let's get into this, guys. First thing I want to do, I'm just going to switch cameras here. So I'm going to get out of this camera and I'm going to move over to another camera. And this one over here. And just to basically show you guys the first I want to talk about about this Absolute Edition, what it comes in. I'm not gonna lie, like there's something basically very almost so simple about this. I mean, it's just all yellow. I was a little disappointed at first. I mean, it's clearly Doomsday Clock. It's clearly Watchmen. I think very clearly our artistic designer and was probably going along with the concept of less is more, keeping it simple, the bright yellow with the clock, and instead of going with the smiley face with blood, they went with the with the clock and Superman being one of the hands, because it's interesting because in this story Superman is essentially seen, the Superman of the metaverse, the primary metaverse Earth is sort of like the North Star, and whatever happens to Superman, the rest of the multiverse sort of shapes around it, or the universe shapes around it. And it's not quite, I know that Superman isn't quite pointing north yet, but at the same time, we have to remember that this is Doomsday Clock, and we have to remember that a Doomsday Clock originated in 1948, and basically the closer that the hand gets to midnight, the closer we are to World Armageddon. And incidentally, I think as of 2020, we're only 120 seconds away, I believe, from Doomsday Clock. We're the closest to midnight than we've ever been, apparently, in since 1948. But I stand to be corrected on that. That was actually, I read that in the preamble by Jeff Johns in this opening, in this beautiful omnibus. Now, I got to tell you that it's this thing is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I'm going to nitpick here, and I'll tell you one thing right off the bat. The cover here with Superman and the blood splatter, instead of the blood splatter being on the happy face, the blood splatter is on Superman S. I'll tell you what, I'm being critical here, but on the flip side, all it is it's the mere reflection of that. It's the opposite. And I gotta tell you, I don't like that. I think it's uncreative. I don't mind it being on the front, but I actually thought the whole thing was generally, this look we should have seen more of Gary Frank's fantastic art. The art in here is just fantastic. The pages are just gorgeous. I should tell you that at the beginning of each chapter, of course, there's 12 chapters. You see the Doomsday Clock. You see the Doomsday Clock down below with the Superman, and the Superman S symbol is there because Superman is the North Star. So he's at 12 o'clock midnight, and there's some interesting irony there that Superman is the North Star, but uh, directly north is 12 o'clock, and that's also the sign of Doomsday. So it's interesting. Is is Superman the end? Will Superman and the meeting of Superman and Dr. Manhattan bring about the destruction of the universe or the destruction of the world, or will Superman save it? And as the chapters go, each chapter, the blood on top of each of the chapters gets lower and lower. So you'll note that the individual issues also had that on the back of each individual issue of Doomsday. That's exactly what happened as well. So you'll see in each chapter the blood gets lower and lower until it eventually covers up the entire Doomsday Clock. Now, the this thing is fantastic. It's just I spent about 2 hours earlier today just rereading some of the chapters. There's so much cram packed into this. Jeff Johns, this really was a love letter to Alan Moore. I know Alan Moore's attitude. We all know Alan Moore's attitude. Alan Moore basically doesn't want DC to touch any of his work. And look, there's no reason to touch Watchmen. You could leave it alone. But this is a beautiful homage to Watchmen, and it continues the story. It basically is the story of Ozymandias leaving the Watchmen universe to go look for Dr. Manhattan because he's got an agenda of his own. And Dr. Manhattan, the machinations of Dr. Manhattan, essentially at the end of Watchmen, when he goes out into the universe, he came to observe the DC universe, and it's because of Dr. Manhattan that we ended up with the New 52 and the machinations that came out of that. And ultimately, Dr. Manhattan discovers that he reaches a point where he can't see the future past a certain date, and the last thing he knows is that he's going to be battling Superman. And so the big question is, who's going to win in the battle between Superman and Dr. Manhattan? Dr. Manhattan is fascinated by Superman. He can't believe that there's something special about Superman. He doesn't know quite what it is. And ultimately getting there until the very end, there is that battle. But Superman is Superman, and he's the North Star, and Superman does what is right. He does what is good. And so, in the end, does Dr. Manhattan. This is a story of Dr. Manhattan. I mean, the Watchmen was the story of Dr. Manhattan coming to terms with his godhood. And really, Doomsday Clock is the story of Dr. Manhattan coming to terms with his humanity, and everything coming full circle with ultimately Dr. Manhattan making the particular choices at the end that just really stand out. Now, I should say that one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this is that it comes with a card on the back, and all those fans of Doomsday Clock and Watchmen, you'll recognize this card. This is a picture. This is a picture of John and Janie, and of course, John being John Osterman, who would become Dr. Manhattan, and his love, Janie. And it's duplicates of this picture that are found by Lex Luthor at various points in the time period throughout Doomsday Clock. And there's a significance to this because this essentially was like in every time period where Dr. Manhattan appeared, this was sort of his calling card that he didn't realize he was dropping this. But anyways, that has significance in the story of Doomsday Clock. And it's nice that we got as a little Easter egg in the back. I almost didn't see it, but I didn't realize it was in there. But it's actually nicely positioned in the back. So that's a nice little Easter egg to get inside this absolute edition. Now, in terms of the extras that we're getting here, they're on the back. You get all on the each individual issue of Doomsday Clock, issues 1 through 12. At the back of each issue, there were newspaper articles and little trinkets and Easter eggs providing additional information to the reader. And what I like about here is that Jeff Johns and notes from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, they explain what each of them were, how they came up with the ideas, and Gary Frank's designs as well. And it's just truly gorgeous. I particularly like the designs of I was going to say Harley Quinn, the designs of the Harlequin, and the design of the mime. Pardon me, did I say Harley Quinn? Shame on me. Marionette. The Mime and the Marionette. Apparently, the original design for the Mime stayed the same, and the Marionette, Gary Frank went through numerous interpretations, artistic interpretations of Marionette before they settled on a design. Absolutely gorgeous designs. He could have went with any of them; it would have been great. Jeff Johns indicated that they wanted to distinguish her from Harley Quinn because Jeff Johns knew that she would be probably associated with Harley Quinn by most readers in any event because there would obviously be a visual similarity. So they tried their best in subtle ways to distinguish her from Harley Quinn in order to make the Marionette that much more distinguishing. There's also, it shows the designs of how they designed the first 12 issues. Like the original Watchmen, the back covers of Doomsday Clock were designed to form a connecting image as each progressive issue got more red than the one before. And these concepts were done by Brian Cunningham. Now, I got to tell you, each individual page. I mean, gorgeous. Those who collected the series, these covers are going to look very familiar, and it's just really really nice. Now, if to me this is a no-brainer. If you are lovers of Doomsday Clock, you'll definitely want to pick this up. You know, reading this again, I have to tell you, I read up to the 4th issue today, and I just love it. I want to read it again. This has an elegance and a beauty to it, and the themes in this story and the character arcs of the Carl, I think it's Carver Coleman, the actor, the gay actor from the 1940s, whose history plays a key role in this. The changing histories of Superman and how Superman evolves and changes just from all the actions that Dr. Manhattan does in preventing and pushing Alan Scott's Lantern away from him so that the Justice Society is not formed. The significance of the Justice Society of America. If you want to know how significant the Justice Society of America is, read Doomsday Clock again, guys, because you got to remember in DC Comics, the Justice Society is coming back. We got Stargirl coming back in the comics. She's a member of the modern day Justice Society. The Justice Society of America is coming back in DC in full bore. And if you want to know the significance, just how important the Justice Society is, read Doomsday Clock. There's a reason why this is so significant. And I just love the fact that all the passion that went into this Doomsday Clock, there's a simplicity to it that it's easy. It's an easy read, and it's also a read that encourages you to take a deep dive into it, because at the end of each chapter you get newspaper articles, additional information that enhance the reading experience of the chapter you just finished reading. This is such a gorgeous edition. And look, there's even art in here from the hardcover. Originally there was a hardcover edition of the first 6 issues, then the final 6 issues, and then I believe there was a trade paperback of the entire trade. You don't need to get the omnibus, but you know, boy, it is gorgeous, and it's great to hold. Now, again, I would have liked to have seen the Mime and Marionette or some of the people on the back. I personally, I think this was a little boring. All that beautiful Gary Frank art. I disagree with the artistic choices made, but I'm sure they just wanted this to feel epic. To me, this is lazy. Why would you waste? You have Gary Frank, one of the best artists in the business, and you're gonna leave this plank a straight yellow? That's sheer laziness. I also don't like the design of Superman there. I'm gonna say straight up. I don't. I understand his placement there, but again, I want to see more Gary Frank's art. You want the symbolism and everything is within the story. I don't need it on the outside like this. But having said that, it is gorgeous. It does look absolutely gorgeous again. And I'll just, try to show you there. And it looks absolutely gorgeous. So, hey man, you could it gets a high recommend. And again, it does have that card of John and Janie at the fair that we saw in Doomsday Clock. So that's real good. And that actually is a nice spot for it inside. And this does look beautiful. And look at that baby, huh? Absolutely gorgeous. So guys, This has a price tag. This is a regular price tag here is 125 American. Now I was very fortunate. I got it much cheaper than that for a number of reasons. I don't expect many of you probably will, but a lot of people who buy omnibuses, you can wait for a deal, wait for a trade, or wait for a good deal or trade for it later on. This is I was not going to pay 165 Canadian for it. I thought that was obscenely high, but for the price I got it for, this is absolutely gorgeous. And even if you can't afford the omnibus, get the trade, get the 12 issue trade or an hardcover form. Get the individual issues. I'm sure the individual issues are probably even in dollar bins, or get them for $3 bins here in Canada. Pick them up because they're well worth the read, and the art is fantastic. And if you're a DC fan, you're foolish not to, because it will really give you some good background going into DC. What I think is going to be DC Comics moving forward, and that is just basically understanding that Superman is the heart and soul of the DC universe. You can dispense with death metal, you can dispense with Dark Crisis, because I think those are just going to confuse things. Stick with Jeff Johns. You can usually never go wrong with Jeff Johns. So, guys, I just wanted to leave that with you there. And I'm going to switch back here to my other camera. And let me see here. There we go. And yeah, so there you have it, guys. My review of Absolute Doomsday Clock. It's a great story, and many of you probably disagree with me on this. Maybe you like the simple, elegant design, because there is something beautiful. It stands out. Let's face it. I used to own I used to have a yellow truck. And it was. I actually liked my yellow truck, but I just found that I got a lot of speeding tickets on it. Not only because I sped, but because every cop knew me. Because how many times do you see something that's totally yellow? But, well, there you go. You see it in Doomsday Clock, and it does look pretty good there. And let me put it on that side there, on the side. Anyways, guys, pick it up and let me know what you think if you do pick it up. And thanks for listening. You can listen to my weekly DC comic reviews that I do with Chase at the Comic Source. And you can also listen to my indie comic review that I do with Jim at Weird Science DC, and he does Weird Science manga, Weird Science Marvel, etc., etc. So check those videos out. And with that, I shall let you guys go. And until next time, Comic Boom out.